You showed up for a money seminar. Usually that means that you have some questions starting to keep you up at night. For some of you, a ripple of fear or apprehension just ran through you. There's few topics more stressful. So here's my promise. No tax rates, RSPs, or TFSAs or money charts. It's not that kind of talk. Today we're going to cross the river into behavior finance. Why? Because as a financial planner for over 25 years, I knew that there was something not working in my practice. There was something that was missing when I tried to work with some clients and could not get traction or get them to commit and follow through on a process. And I needed to dig into the why. My first instinct, and that of many others in finance, has been to prioritize financial literacy, inform and educate, and that will make for better decision making. But unfortunately, that's not enough. We've been teaching financial literacy in high school for over 30 years now. You can download an app or Google almost any question, so access to good information is not the defining factor. So, what is? First, we're wired to spend. Instant gratification, dopamine, and all that stuff. Maybe this makes some of you do a happy dance in your seat or provides a sense of relief. But let's be realistic and remember that our ancestors had no banks, they had no cold storage. Hunt, gather, and use it all up and start again in the morning. We're wired to keep up with the Joneses. If I don't share my goods from the hunt or gathering with my tribe, I'm likely to be thrown out. So survival depends on membership in the tribe. Now let's move this forward and compound your wired to spend and add the new world dilemmas that we're facing. You need to save for the future because you no longer exist in tribe. That's a huge shift. You're not going to strong arm your biology for just anyone, so you better have a pretty good vision of what your future self looks like. Why do I continue to delve into the behavioral side? Because these discussions and revelations are critical. I know because I spent time delving into my own biases and behavior and how that's impacted my own financial well being, and can see the direct correlations between various events of some of my childhood and how that's impacted my spending. With that in mind, I want to share with you a moment that led me to dramatically shift how I was talking to my own kids about money. My oldest son has played competitive lacrosse since he was a mini tyke at about 5, and he's 18 and still actively involved today. We've covered a lot of miles, covered a lot of arenas, and bought a lot of running shoes in that time. When he was about 12, he was due for the spring equipment check, which generally requires a brand new pair of shoes. For those of you who don't know, indoor lacrosse is played on a hockey arena when the ice is off. So runners have two key requirements. They need to not slip on the concrete, and the soles need to be great quality so that we don't have shin splints or sore legs as you play. As much as any 12-year-old may wish it, they do not need to be designer and super cool. And this particular year, he had been raiding the fridge about every 10 minutes, and experience told me that we were likely going to need 2 pairs of shoes this season and not just one because we were about to have a massive growth spurt. In my exasperation while we were shopping, I finally said, we can't afford to spend that on runners, so sale shoes or don't play. Now, fast forward a couple of weeks, and a minor confession that I have a boot fetish. But I'm quite frugal, so I don't buy boots in the fall when they hit the store shelves. I scour the stores in the spring and buy them when they're on sale at 50 to 75% off. And that spring, I came home with a great pair. Now, my son Eric saw the box that said $300 for the boots and exploded. How come we can't afford runners, but you can afford boots? And while his explosion was a little bit over the top, the question was valid and did stop me. That was the moment when I started to shift the conversation. The boots were 75% off. My feet were not growing, and I'm going to get 10 years out of these boots, not 4 months. But it's also when we started to shift the conversation dramatically about money. It's no longer that we can't afford it. The conversation is where we are putting that on the priority list for right now. We often make choices that look different. Once these discussions started to shift, our kids did not feel deprived or poorer than their friends and peer groups, just that we were a family making choices and different priorities at this time. So my challenge to you is to think about how you talk about money and the language you use around it. The language you use is incredibly powerful and creates the world and environment that you're living in. If you are going to strong arm your wiring, making a clear picture of what your goals are will help ensure success. I hope this has given you something to think about.